Thunderfoot, and people who think like you, if you ever try to awaken any sort of sleeping giant that is hostile to any Muslim or non-Muslim innocent person, innocent person, innocent person, innocent person, innocent person, innocent, 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 innocent person, as mandated in the Quran and the true interpretation of the Sharia that all true Muslims and the majority of the Muslims in the world share. We Muslims, the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and our non-Muslim allies will send you to the God that you wish you knew. Not as a threat, not as a promise, but a mandate of justice, mandate of justice, mandate of justice, innocent person, mandate of justice.
Oh, and for those who need a refresher, here is the clip in full. In full. Yet this is the full quote. There is no effort to mine this, to put it in a false light in order to change the meaning. This is the full quote.
Thunderfoot's very good with word usage. He picks out words that when you then listen, you will find what you want in Ali's comment to coalesce with what Thunderfoot said. So he said that he's trying to actively kill, and he emphasizes me as if it's a directly veiled, individualized threat. And this is relevant because what Ali was saying may be very different if you really listen to context. And this is the other confusing portion, that Thunderfoot's trying to make this seem as if it's a very, very well-played contextual comment, granting all understanding so that when you watch this, you don't feel like you've missed anything. And it's a matter of just blunt dishonesty, as far as I'm concerned.
And that the power of the age of reason must never be allowed to fall into the hands of those from the age of religion. For there is no doubt in my mind that if such power were delivered into the primitive hands of a theocracy, that genocide of the infidel and doing Allah's work would be synonymous terms. But let's say that all your box cutters and shooting and stabbing unarmed filmmakers, you managed to actually threaten the enlightened world. And I mean threatened beyond crashing a few airliners. Your only achievement will have been to have awakened a sleeping giant and to have filled it with a terrible resolve. If you're going to pray to Allah for anything, beg him that you never meet the giant in such a mood. For your continued existence is entirely at the discretion and goodwill of the giant, and that it is all that stands between you being granted continued existence, and you receiving yourself the self-same judgment that you would so zealously impose on the rest of the world if only you had the power.
Let's just focus in on one thing here.
And that it is all that stands between you being granted continued existence, and you receiving yourself the self-same judgment that you would so zealously impose on the rest of the world if only you had the power.
Self-same judgment. What was that again?
That if such power were delivered into the primitive hands of a theocracy, that genocide of the infidel and doing Allah's work would be synonymous terms.
So, you have, if religious lunatics had their way, they would commit genocide. If you piss off the giant, you will receive the self-same judgment. If you cannot see where Ali could have gotten the idea that Thunderfoot was threatening innocent people, then I really don't know what to tell you. Incidentally, I don't think that's what Thunderfoot meant, because I give him the benefit of the doubt as to not being a genocidal lunatic who wants to kill innocent people. That said, he certainly chose his words very poorly. I have heard far too many people say, oh, we should just nuke the whole Middle East, to not be aware of the fact that, you know, you should be careful in what you're implying in what you say. I mean, you should in general, but in this case, I think that Thunderfoot dropped the ball. When you listen to what Ali said, he was clearly talking about stopping people who would try and harm innocent people.
What continues to happen through this, even after the lack of actual context, while Thunderfoot lies and is dishonest and claims that he's giving you full context, is as the video plays, as those segments play, Thunderfoot is dropping keywords on the screen in text. It's subtle, but it does far more than you imagine. If you watch the video with them and without, there's a clear it's a clear differentiation in our minds that happens. There's a clear, distinct difference in the way it's taken in. Firstly, right at the beginning of the video, when this is all going on, Thunderfoot writes basically, as when he says it's, as mandated in the Quran, what Muslims will do based on the Quran. And he just highlights these words. And by the way, over the entire course of Ali's commentary, right under his face, he has the words, a moderate Muslim, already mocking his stance and setting you up to interpret his commentary as anything but. These subtleties are far, far, far more effective than one would assume they really are, because they, even I for a second, and I watched for this nonsense because it's particularly demeaning and dishonest. And even I'm looking at this going, oh, that's a decent point, until you re-listen, until you pay more attention, and you don't just take someone's word for it. Now, if you re-listen to Ali's video, I'm not going to play it, but if you re-listen, he more than once and open-endedly emphasizes that it's not Muslims alone. Yes, Muslims are going to use the Quran and its allowance for self-defense, and he is clearly speaking in self-defense here. There is no question. And I don't know what moral sentiment you hold, Thunderfoot, that doesn't account for self-defense as appropriate. I don't understand anyone who disallows for this. I'd imagine that you find self-defense to be essentially an inherent right, that if someone's trying to kill you, you're allowed to respond with an equal amount of force and take them out. I don't understand why this is problematic. He's not issuing a threat as an instigator. He's issuing a threat as a defender of his own territory, his own life, his own personhood, his own reality. He clearly states that if they're attacked, if any innocent person is attacked, Muslim or non-Muslim, anyone is attacked, then Muslims and their non-Muslim allies will respond with the appropriate amount of force. This is not that goddamn. It's not even remotely shady. If you watch it, you hear him, and he makes sure to clarify this. I'd imagine because he knew what you were going to do. Anyone could have caught that.
As for Ali's fishing for Thunderfoot's docks, the first thing that I want to say is that I don't agree with this and that I think it's unethical. On the other hand, I can understand why he would try and do it, and I'm going to use a Thunderfoot clip to explain why.
But maybe more pertinent in the current case, though, is the concept of reciprocation, something that is as biologically hardwired into every human watching this video as is your need to breathe oxygen. The general concept is, you're a jerk if you do to me what you would not like done to you.
So you have a situation in which the spotlight of Thunderfoot and his thousands of subscribers, and like it or not, including some zealots, is placed on Ali, and some of those people gave him death threats. He stated very clearly in Blog TV that he felt that his future and that his career and possibly even his life was threatened. And so he wanted to reciprocate by putting Thunderfoot under some pressure. I don't believe it's right. I also, incidentally, going back to what this clip originally came from, don't believe it's right that we should be intolerant towards people who want to build a mosque at ground zero just because some other people who happen to believe similar things, destroyed the World Trade Center. It's like, just because you can explain this in terms of a social strategy doesn't make it right. And the first person who accuses me of trying to defend what Ali did is getting one in the brain. That aside, really what should have happened here is that these two parties should have sat down together and talked things out, instead of all this posturing that we're seeing. This is nothing more than posturing. Ali claims that he attempted to contact Thunderfoot and speak to him over Skype or in Blog TV to defuse the situation, and, according to Ali, Thunderfoot refused. I would like to see them try and talk this out, because things should have never have escalated at this point. Now, as far as Thunderfoot goes, Islamophobia is real. I may not support Ali's beliefs or what he's done. Nonetheless, Thunderfoot needs to realize that he is putting Ali under a pretty significant spotlight, and that he does have some pretty zealous fans who will do things like make death threats against him, and he should be more cognizant of that when he goes out and makes these sort of videos against Ali. He did not really genuinely represent the context in what Ali's saying. I don't agree with Ali's interpretation of what Thunderfoot said. Nonetheless, I don't see it as a totally out of left field interpretation either. It's fairly understandable given our social climate and how poorly Thunderfoot chose his words. This situation is just a mess, and it just keeps escalating, and I had to make this video because this is totally ridiculous. You know, it's just posturing. Actually address the matters at hand and just stop posturing. That's my advice. Talk these things out, because this is ridiculous. Thank you and goodbye.